What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's a good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here. And in day 3 of free agency, we've seen the New York Jets make a flurry of moves. We follow that up on day 4 with 3 new faces and a re-signing. And I want to jump into that one first just because it's going to be the quickest conversation piece here. Jamin Davis comes back to the team, another 1-year contract. We took a dart throw on him the end of last year as a potential Quincy Williams type situation, I suppose. High pedigree type prospect, being a former first round pick, fell out of favor with the Commanders. The Jets really were probably the best situation he could have landed in, as being known as, kind of a linebacker university. I would imagine we were getting a bit of a reputation for, and Aaron Glenn's staff seems to think that they may be able to coax something out of him as well, maybe in an LB3 fourth rotational linebacker type role. But we have 2 new defensive tackles and a tight end, and I'll start off with the DTs first. We have Jay Tufele, and he's easily the guy that's probably least exciting, the guy that we probably know the littlest about. He's coming over from the Bengals, and he had himself a really strong college pedigree. Defensive Rookie of the Year accolades. He was racking up all conference, accolades and different things of that nature, really filling the stat sheets from a run game perspective, pass game perspective. A lot of what he did, though, just doesn't feel like it translated well into the NFL. Had a contract year with the Bengals last year. Didn't even end up being able to make it onto the regular season roster. Bounced around a little bit, and now the Jets feel like they want to give him an opportunity to try to see if he can fill that Solomon Thomas type role, I would imagine, or at least his position on the depth chart. But from a guy that's known to do well in the college ranks, and then to see him fall off a little bit here, it's not the worst thing in the world. Again, we don't know the contract situations for a lot of these guys, but you're probably talking about as low of a contract value as you can ask for, right? And for what it's worth, he wasn't overwhelmingly good, but all of these guys at least showed out a little bit from an efficiency standpoint. He seems like he had a bit of a knack for making at least a handful of plays. He's just not an exciting prospect for a reason, but 2.5 sacks. He's able to offer a little pass rush pop, able to get into the backfield a little bit, so we'll see how he sticks. I think the more intriguing prospect for a lot of people is going to be Byron Cowart. He's coming over from the Bears. He has a link with Eric Washington, who was the coach for the Bears there as well. So you have a little bit of that in-person intel that might have attracted the Jets to a guy like this that might have fallen through the cracks and has a little bit more to offer. He epitomizes some of that efficiency that we were chatting about, right? 23rd in run stop out of 116 interior players. He's 50th in pressure rate out of the same amount. And I think this is a guy that, when you look at him, he gets that consistency in having the same line coach, Eric Washington, now work with them here. He gets a little bit more of an opportunity with the scarcity of quality interior players for us, watching guys like Kinlaw leave, watching guys like Solomon leave, Quentin not having a direct partner, and then you are looking at Leonard Taylor III as maybe a potential solution, but there's definitely room to beat him out, or to at least be a quality backup behind each of those guys, right? So who knows what the breakdown will be between edge to interior players here, but Cowart definitely has a pretty strong shot of being able to make something shake with us. And then Stone Smart, for one, I love the name. Anybody that has a little bit of alliteration there tends to catch my ear. But this is really the high upside guy, especially it being offense, especially it being tight end, knowing that we're probably going to run more of that 12 personnel package, and we don't really have the receiving threat. Conklin's not back. Jeremy Ruckert hasn't really proven that, 1, he can deliver in the receiving game, but 2, that he's anything more than, I don't even want to say a gadget blocker, but a guy that just happens to make some key blocks in key opportune moments for Breece Hall. Otherwise, you don't really know him for any major catches or any major moments that really helped shift the tide. So you don't want to give him that tight end 2 spot by default. And I would argue that none of these guys are going to be tight end 1 worthy either. But this at least fosters some of that competition. Stone Smart actually is a former quarterback that ended up moonlighting at wide receiver as well, which makes sense because plenty of people look at him as a glorified wide receiver in a bit of a hybrid tight end wide receiver body, coming in at 6'4", 225 to like 230-ish pounds. But he has some things working for him. I love me a good UDFA story, as you all know, for one. And this is a guy that found a way to make himself a household name with the Chargers, with the fan base that's really locked in on some of those depth guys. Seems like people really wanted him to stick around within the organization as well. They opted to tender a different tight end, though. And so I'm sure this was just kind of the money play. Maybe he'll not get some immediate offers or won't be heavily looked at, and he'll end up coming back. But only 16 catches last year. He still has done way more than what we've seen out of Jeremy Ruckert in just the one season that he's really put up last year. And you're talking about a guy that's only played the tight end position for the last 3 years. So when you look at the coaching staff, right, you have Steve Hyden, who has that former tight end experience. You have I want to say Blasco was the name of our actual new tight end coach. Guys feel like they switch positions, right? But either way, you have 2 quality guys that have coached up not only some guys that have been looked at as the above average starters in the league, like Zach Ertz and TJ Hawkinson, but you've had some depth guys behind them as well that they've been able to work with. So Stone Smart is kind of one of those guys that I feel like it's that moldable player that they would love to be able to get their hands on and turn into one of those great success stories for the Jets. 14 of his 16 catches last year were done in a 5-week span towards the tail end of the season. I believe week 13 to week 17. That gave him an 84.2% catch rate. But what's going to draw our attention is the fact that he was able to convert 75% of his contested catches. And he had I seen some of the numbers from Michael Nania, right? I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think he had a 10.1 average depth of target, which made him like 7th out of 22 tight ends or something along that nature. So he's a big play threat waiting to happen. 3 passes over 20, 3 catches over 20 plus yards, something along those lines, right? There's a lot of little caveats within the few plays that he was able to make there. Again, also in a limited amount of snaps, with him not really coming on until the end of this year. I think he also was able to find himself 2 starts as well, where he put up 8 catches and just shy of 90 yards or so. So Stone Smart's a guy that I could really find myself, falling in love with as that up and coming riser, that Creed or Rocco type story sentiment stuff. I don't think it's crazy to think that he could beat out Jeremy Ruckert, just depending on what the skill set is and how they want to kind of align that room, right? You still need somebody that's going to be a excellent blocker within this building as well, so that still gives Jeremy Ruckert a pretty strong shot. But again, Tyler Warren conversations are out there. That doesn't persuade us from going out and trying to look for a trade or another veteran type option to add to that room as well and complete the trifecta. There's still tight ends that I'm going to love going into, the tail end of day 2 there, early day 3. So we'll see how this works out. But, the strategy in mind made me think. I remember like high school days playing Madden. I kind of I thought it was a mind-breaking idea, right? The bottom of my depth chart, I'm talking like my 4th halfback, my 3rd tight end, my 5th cornerback, my 3rd or 4th DT, all of those lower tier guys. I had a threshold that I wanted. Defensive tackle, for example, my lowest overall rated DT should have been a 72 or higher, meaning everybody else above him would either be at the same level or higher. And of course, it's hard to hit that threshold. It's not that same one across all positions, but the idea I'm trying to convey here is that I wanted there to be a minimal standard of play or a minimal standard of excellence at the very lowest part of my roster. And so the expectation being, I know I'm going to have guys in play above all of these guys that I'm super comfortable with. Or hopefully you hope that that competition really fosters and more people tend to break out as a result. And I think it went pretty well for me. Of course, everybody thinks they're Madden champs, but I kind of see that same mentality taking place here. I know people don't love a lot of these signings that are coming through, especially since we're not talking about some of the super low end tier guys on the depth chart per se. I'm looking at Brandon Stevens, for example, but all in all, I think this is a situation where you have a mix of guys that are either linked with some of the players from the coaching staff, or some of the comments and sentiments that we've heard is that these guys feel like they're just a couple plays away, a little bit of a consistency factor away from really being solid candidates at the positions that we're expecting these guys to fall into, the depth chart spots we expect these guys to fall into. And I'm not going to question it. But in that same token, I also see this setting us up to where we don't just have to pencil in certain positions that we absolutely have to target in the draft. You go and get yourself Okafor, for example, at right tackle. You're still going to probably look for one pretty early enough, but it doesn't mean you have to go round one again. Tight end wise, you don't want to have to lock yourself into maybe overdrafting for a guy, even if he does end up being one of the better tight ends in the league by the end of his rookie year. Different things of that nature. And I think that's really the way to go about it. It's also playing into the strengths, just eyeballing things. DT wise, if they fill up the bottom tier of the depth chart, for example, you're talking about potential starters, definitely elite role players going into day 3. Running back, if something crazy happens there, right? Wide receiver seems like it's a relatively solid class, not in terms of star power, but in terms of guys that will be able to go in and get the jobs done if you're putting them into the proper places. So I can see the vision, kind of get the idea. I also can't wait to drop one of the first 7-round mock drafts that I'm going to do here in a couple of days. I just want to see what else shakes free from free agency. But let me know what you guys think about the signings here, and I'll catch you guys again. Peace.